and he has to update all that information to the to their routers for routing. Okay, if that is a one case. So that is what the routers will doing, right? So the routers, they are exchanging their information to others now, every other routers or in the different networks, so that every can update their routing table about those information which is not there in the routing table. Okay. Uh, so this will understood. So in practically, if I say we majorly use a routing protocol in intra-AS routing domain, which is OSPF, and between different autonomous system, we use something called BGP. So BGP is a one protocol which is completely what today we see in internet with the help of BGP. That is the one backbone protocol which helps to exchange routing routes information from one autonomous system to another autonomous system. Okay. So as so far we discussed, so somewhere we are looking at how I can ensure delivery of packet from an host to host. So what is an host to host here is from your source host to a destination host, right? So we said an IP header, like in network layer, we have something called IP header, which consisting of some control information, some information which can give to delivery of that package to the proper host. That is what we call destination. Either it might be in the same autonomous system, it may be in any world, in anywhere in the world, which that connected to a network. I would ensure that to delivery of this to him. Okay. So this is what host to host delivery. So from a source node or a sending host to a receiving host. So this what we so far discussed, either an IP addressing scheme and or routing protocol and the header format, which in turns have some functionality, which inbuilt provide some services, something quality of service. We saw that in header we have type of services which ensures the quality of service needed for any user application, or even it provides something called segmentation. Segmentation, we know that. So there is a need of segmentation because the underlying network may not be having capability of carrying the large size of packets. Okay. So having said this, so the another thing what we need here is so delivery of these packets. Okay, what we were ensured to deliver them to uh, a source or from a host to host, which need another thing to ensure. Another thing is delivery of that same package to the uh, from a process to process. Okay, so I should ensure delivery of a packet from a sender process to the receiver process. So what do you mean by the process here I'm talking? You can think of could be an application. So whatever the application that the sender process, the sender would use, okay. So they might be the sender process, like they will give up a stream of bytes, and how that a transport layer could stream or send this stream of messages or stream of bytes to the destination. Okay, so that is what here is what we call as process to process delivery. Identifying a process on a system, because whatever the today systems that we have, which can run, which can capable with running multiple process concurrently or simultaneously. Okay, in that case, whatever the packets that you might send, okay, to any of the destination or receiver, it should ensure the packet for which process, because there are multiple process. They are seeing some packets from different senders. Okay, as they receive this packet from different senders, it should ensure which packet for which process, right? If someone has unmute, like please mute your mic. Okay. So the process to process delivery is the responsibility of your transport layer, which ensures the delivery of a packet. Okay. A part of a message. We said here in the transport layer, we consider a part of a message or datagram. We set them as a segment. Segment, it's transport layer, packet at the network layer. Okay, ensuring a delivery of a packet, or you can say think of set of segments, a part of a message from a process to another process. Okay, these two processes are communicated in the most well communication model, which is called client server relationship. So there are different communications models at present, like whatever you have in any network entity, any host which are connected to a network, most of them they are communicated in the form of client server relationship. So what do you mean by client server? So one will be always be a requester. The server is something, they are the responser. Okay, so the client will request and the server will something respond. So what do you mean by these two words I am talking? What do you mean by client and what do you mean by server? Client is always could be something, an application you can think of, which they are running on two different entities. The client mission, like let us say your the whenever you open a Google browser, something it's a client application, and whatever you type google.com, something you are requesting to display that web page, Google web page. So somewhere you can see that Google server is hosted in the internet. Your request will be sent to that, and you get back the resources from the server, which is HTML, CSS, and some JavaScript files, and that get loaded in your client application. Okay. So the provider, the resource provider, so we set them as a server, or I would say a resource holder. We call them as a server. A client requesting that resource, we call them as a client. Okay. A host which requesting some resource from a server, we call them as a client. Where a server is something, they are the one which holds the resources, and that will be shared to the client whoever requested. Okay, it's some context. I would say this could be a definition of a client and a server. For from an application point of view, might we might have some other definitions where I can define what is a client and what is a server. Okay, this is one example, and simply you can understand what it is. Okay, so in this the outline of this presentation, we were mainly discussing about the delivery mechanism. So we have two types of delivery mechanism. One is unreliable delivery mechanism and what is called delivery guaranteed or reliable delivery mechanism. And each of this mechanisms are implemented in a protocols. We set them as UDP and TCP. UDP is something unreliable delivery mechanism. The way how we delivered a packet. Okay, and after you delivered, you will not something you'll send a acknowledgement what you might have sent from a sender to a receiver. Okay, so that is something we said is an unreliable. Okay, where source will not be aware whether that packet or a segment has received or not. Okay, so this mechanism is written in a protocol. We set them as an UDP, and where we have something called guaranteed service, or I would say uh, a reliable transmission. We set them as we implemented them with a protocol called TCP. Okay, so there are another one which is a protocol which is an hybrid of these two, uh, uh, TCP and UDP. We set them as SATP. Okay, at the transport layer, so they are like majorly we working with three protocols: SCTP, TCP, and UDP. So, but we were only discussing UDP and TCP. That is a part of your syllabus. We are not discussing about SATP. Okay. So, before getting into this part of implementation, the delivery mechanism, let me understand this some of these concepts like what is a client server paradigm, multiplexing, demultiplexing, connection oriented, connectionless, and there is something reliable and unreliable. And so, what was these three protocols for used at this layer? Okay. So the transport layer is responsible for, you know, that delivery of packets or a segment from a sender process to a receiver process. Okay. Uh, Just a second. Okay. So where in this diagram, so you can see a type of data deliveries. Three different. Even we spoke about in the initial days itself, right? When we are discussing about OSI model, there is something a node-to-node delivery. There is something an host-to-host delivery. There is something called process-to-process delivery. So you can observe here. So it ensures what is the starting point and what is the ending point here. And host to host is something from this system to another system. Ensuring from a sender process to a receiver process is what they call as process to process delivery. And we know that at what each layer will be responsible for each different types of data delivery. Okay, so data link layer is responsible for hop to hop or node to node, where a network layer is something a source to destination, or I would say a host to host, and your transport layer is responsible for the delivery of the packet from a process to process. Okay. So there is another addressing we use at the transport layer, since I told you that an application can run a multiple processes. Okay. In order to identify each processes which is running simultaneously, or if a multiple processes running on a system, so we need to have an unique identification number for each of these processes. Okay. So that number we set, or the address we set them as port address. Okay. Or you can simply say them as port number. And what is the size of this address is 16-bit, and you can have a range from 0 to 65535 in decimal. Okay. So you can see here there is a kind of a client server relation. Okay, so what is that and which application they are like they are using this is something daytime client, the daytime server. Let us say it is an application like daytime application. The client will have an application where it will request a server to know what is the date and the time. Something very simple. Okay, so where a server will have a resource means it knows what is the date and what is the time. Probably where a client may not be knowing. It's something a device which can display what is the time and the date. Okay, so it have some a process running in it, and it will not have this application in the device itself. It's something whenever you press that button, I think it will request a server and it get to know what is the time and the date of today's. Okay, when the request is like user will be requesting for that. Okay, you can think like that. So here, not only that application it might be consist of, it may have any number of processes, different processes, but user will be allocating some port number to that process randomly. The sender side, when they are at initiating some request, it is always use a random port number. Okay, but whereas when we define that process at a server side, it is always lies in the well-known port number range. So what is this random, what is a dynamic range, and what I'm saying here, well-known port, we will discuss next. Okay, so this addresses we're gonna categorize, we're gonna make them into three different ranges. Okay, and each ranges we set them as like well-known port number, registered and unregistered, or dynamic. So, and each of this range has specific applications. Okay, application in the sense the well-known port number should be used for well-known applications or services, where a registered could be given for if any of the users they are building their own applications or different processes, they can use to buy that from this range. Where the another range, what we said, unregistered, they can use randomly by whenever any request initiated by the client. Okay, you can see here the client will be initiating with this request with the port number 52,000. Okay, but whereas in the server side it is always be a fixed, and that port number is 30, because it has to uniquely identify which process that this user is requesting for. Okay, that well-known port number it should known to us. Okay, so we know that. Let us say if I give an example, what are the well-known port numbers used for different well-known services? Like if I say HTTP, it's use 80. If that is only HTTP, if it is HTTPS, what is the port number it use? 443. Okay. If you see in your URL tab, if you see HTTP only :// that use a port number 80, and if you use HTTPS, okay, so it is secure. Okay, it will use a port number 443. Okay, similarly we have DNS, DSCP, okay, and so many other different processes. And we also talked about when we use BGP as a routing protocol to share this routing information. First it will build a TCP connection with the neighbor BGP peer node, and it will exchange what is the port number where there we discussed is 179, something like that. For different services they use the well-known port number range. So this is how you can look at what is called port number. Okay, so in this diagram where you can understand how this port number and an IP address will ensuring identifying a specific device or destination and to end specific receiving process. Okay, so this is quite self-explanatory, I think. So this port number gives us the process number, and this IP address identify the specific host, so that identifying the specific host and delivering of that request or a packet message to a specific process is what ensured by these two layers, which is what you call transport and the IP. So that's why in these two layers we majorly use these two protocols. So we have only one option in network layer, which is IP protocol, but in transport we have two options, TCP and UDP. But most of the cases we use TCP. That's why we call this the protocol network model as TCP bar IP. Okay, TCP IP protocol suite or protocol stack, because most of the communications, if any communication if you use, it will be used TCP at the transport layer and IP protocol at certain network layer. So that's why we call as TCP IP suite. Okay, so this is what I told you, that a network address, the report address can have in 16-bit, so that it has a range of 0 to 65535, and this I going to be divide them into three ranges. From 0 to 1024 we set them as well-known port numbers. From 1024 to 49151 we set them as registered, and 49152 to 65535 we set them as unregistered or dynamic. Okay, so the well-known port numbers are used for well-known services, and that is reserved. Okay, and registered, I said is there any user applications or user specific process they are gonna run on internet, they're supposed to buy that port number from the INA, from this range only. So they're gonna allocate any port number from this range. Okay, but unregistered are one which I told you, it is always used by the a source as a source port number by taking it randomly, okay, from this range 49 150, this range knowing, and we did socket programming. Socket is a software entities, software entity, and how that will be identified with the concatenated address of both an IP address and the port number. Okay, how that refers to that socket is actually should have an address of both the IP address and the port address. We set them as socket address. Okay, so what is called multiplexing? So as I told you, in the application layer, I would say you may have a number of user applications. As that, if you see them in a transport layer, where transport layer is running with a multiple processors, send them by one, right? So could be one packet like segment from something an HTTP application, and another segment from an FTP, something like that. As you send that, so the output how it looks, but The outgoing port is going to be kind of a segment, okay, and segment to only one specific application. Okay, so this is what the process we know understanding is something called multiplexing, right? There will be a number of input from different applications, but the output is going to be by segment, okay, and even if it comes to a network layer, it's going to be packet by packet. Okay, it's something called multiplexing, where at the receiver side, it's the reverse of, like, it will receive a packet by packet, and that packet may go and sit at in a different process buffer, right? So all this you can assume as a buffer. Okay, each process when they are initiated, so it will allocate it with some resources like something like a memory, so where it can keep holds of data what it might receive or what it might the process has sent. Okay, there is something called input buffer and output buffer is allocated to each memory, sorry, each processes, where in input buffer whatever the message has been sent or data has been sent by that process will be kept in that input buffer, and the output buffer is what the message is received from the another process, from the receiver process. It will be kept in an output buffer. Okay, something like that. And this is demplexing. Okay, so this is something what we said error control. As I told you, where in a transport layer we need to have something called flow control and error control. Flow control here it is an end to end, where the error control would also be in end to end. Okay, so error here we would be having both for an header as well as the data. After this error identification, so then it will be directly delivered to the application layer. Okay, so here we need something error checking in this path by the data link layer, but the black one which is from the error checking only between the IP layer to the network transport layer. Okay, so only that part. Okay, we same have in a data link layer as well, right? But here it is checking an error between transport network layer to a transport layer. That's it. Okay. Okay, this is what a complete TCP/IP protocol suite. Here we were indeed, or in specific, we are discussing about the implementation of the delivery protocols, which is UDP and TCP. Okay, the first protocol is called UDP, and we set them as user datagram protocol. UDP stands for user datagram protocol. So this is very unreliable protocol. It's in connectionless and it is very lightweight. What do you mean by lightweight? It doesn't have very much overheads. What do you mean by overhead? I'm talking the header format. If you look at this UDP, it's very simple. It will be consisting of only 4 fields. One is source port number, destination port number, total length, and the checksum. So that's it. Okay, it doesn't going to have any other information. It want to ensuring like representing the source port number and the destination port number what they are required by the source host and the destination receiver sender process and the receiver process, right? So that's why we call this very simple and lightweight and connectionless and reliable protocol. So it does not add any kinds of services, additional services with this protocol. It only ensures the delivery of like process to process communication uh, in this protocol. Okay, so first we will discuss what are all the well-known the services, the different applications they use, they depend on UDP based delivery. Okay, I I can say that so every service they can use on TCP, but some service they use UDP because of the easiness, like how it's easy can deliver the packet, but it will not be guaranteed. Okay, so whenever is something how you can differentiate here is the postal service. Okay, there will be normal post and the registered post. Something TCP, something a registered post, you will get an acknowledgement after the post has received by the receiver. But here in normal post, you don't get any other things, but you'll assume that that will be delivered. Okay, it may deliver, it may not be delivered, but most of the time it will be delivered. Something like that. We don't have very much advantage by using this UDP, but still we use because of the simple implementation. Okay, that is how you can think of. So you can ask anybody, why sir we don't, why we use this UDP even though it doesn't have any advantages, because of very simpleness and how uh, it can deliver. So that is the reason we still use what is called UDP. And what are the services which are used implemented UDP here is one is DNS. Okay, the one is DNS, and there is something called SNMP. Probably you might be heard about Simple Network Management Protocol. So which is a protocol used to manage our network. Okay, so we have something called NMS, Network Management Station, and all these devices are running with SNMP agent. Okay, they are called managing devices. So when we have the NMS, a software running on a system, we set them as NMS, Network Management Station. From there, we were able to control and monitor the managing devices. The managing devices are what? The devices which is in the network, which is routers, switches, every other things, printers, so on and so forth. So from the point which is NMS, I could able to manage, monitor, and configure these devices. Okay. Since that will be in the inside a network, probably we not be need of TCP. You can think of we use something called UDP. Okay, so SNMP is also used something called UDP based delivery mechanism. DNS is the one, SNMP is the one, something called BootP, Bootstrap something, it is also use a UDP, and similarly so many others. Okay, other kind of services they use UDP based delivery. Okay, so first we will look at what all those services they are implemented on using UDP and what was their well-known port numbers. Okay, let's look at. If you see this table, I think you will be understand what is these types of services. Services, I could say, I can say an application, even I can say them as a protocol, and I even they given the description next to it. Okay, so as I told you, you can see at the last of the table, in the end of the table, there are two SNMP. So yeah, SNMP is what the earlier version, and another version we said something SNMP trap. These two services they used a port number, well-known port number is 161 and 162, and this is based on UDP. Okay. Similarly, we have NTP, Network Time Protocol, is something a client should, every device which they are connected, they should synchronize with the server time. Okay. So that protocol, receiving of that information is what is the job of SNMP protocol, sorry, NTP protocol. Similarly, we know that remote procedure called RPC, and there are some other different services. Probably we will not aware about that, but these kinds of services they might be using of based of UDP based delivery. Okay, so 7 is something echo, 9 is something discard, something user, active directory, something like that, daytime kind of service. All these kinds of, and TFTP, trivial file transfer protocol. Trivial file transfer is something whenever we transfer a small size of files. Okay, so we mainly use a TFTP protocol, and probably that could also be used implemented based on UDP based, which is using a port number which is 69. Okay, so this are all I can list some of the services which are using an UDP based in like services, which is what you call unreliable delivery mechanism, and their well-known port numbers. Okay, so if you go to a Unix system and if you like to see what is the port number it is used, you can go with this command grep space FTP and the path or the directory, specifying the directory. Okay, so here etc space services is what an application which is running at that path, and FTP is what a specific application you are looking. What grep here stand for matches. Grep here find a word which match with this word which is FTP in this path, which is /etc/service. Okay, that is what this command tells. Grep is something what is how we do whenever you open a Microsoft, Control F, find a word what you will type there, is there any present in this document, something like that. Here grep is something finding matching of this word called FTP in this specific directory. Okay, and what was the result here? It defined like FTP and the port number, which is 21, and the implementation, the service, what type of service it use, TCP as UDP. So something it might be using a both this delivery mechanism, TCP as well as UDP. That depends. Okay, similarly you can see same command with the SNMP. What was the port number and what was the protocol used, transport layer protocol. 161 and 162 are the port number as reserved for SNMP, and they may use UDP for the delivery. Okay, so and comes to this datagram, user datagram. So this is how it would looks like, and the size is from 0 to 65535 bytes, the each one datagram. The header size of UDP is very simple. It will be a 8 bytes of data. In these 8 bytes of data, okay, 2 bytes for these two, which is source port number, destination port numbers, and another 2 bytes for total length and the checksum. Okay, total length here it defines the length of the UDP datagram, header plus the data. Okay, the checksum here is finding out the checksum value, both the header as well as the data. Okay, so we will look at it. It's very simple, right? If you see, it has only 4 fields. All the 4 fields have 2 bytes data. One is source port number, destination port number, then the total length and the what you call checksum. Okay, so what you mean by UDP length here is the length of the IP header minus, sorry, the total length of the IP packet or datagram minus the header length is what it gives the data length is what here is equals to the data length is equals to what here is the UDP length, UDP datagram length, isn't it? Because the data length at the transport layer, it should have the both UP header, like UDP header and as well as the data, right? That will give the UDP length. Okay, how you'll find a checksum in UDP? Okay, so it's very simple. We understood in IP packet, we were only calculating for IP header, and we know how we do that. But here, since it is very simple, here what we do, we used to consider some of the other fields from the other layer, which is here is IP header. In the IP network, in the network layer, what we have an IP header. From there, we used to consider some fields which here we used to calculate the checksum. Okay, that fields which we take from other layer, from the below layer, what is called the IP layer, we call them as pseudo header. Okay, here you can see when you calculating a checksum in UDP, we used to have something called pseudo header and the header of the UDP and the data. As I told you, we used to consider the data as well. Data, UDP header, then the pseudo header, which is the some portion of the field from the IP layer, which is which we call them as pseudo header, and what all we consider the bottom 3 layers, which is for source IP address, destination IP address, and what is called TTL protocol and the UDP length. The checksum, what we should put here is UDP length. Okay, so you will get this picture, right? How we gonna calculate them, and we used to have them in 0 to 31 in length. We divide them into two halves, like 16 bit, 16 bit, and we do the sum. Okay, we do the sum and we'll take the complement of that. Okay, you can see I just taken some random IP addresses, source port number IP address, which is 153.18.8.105. You know how I can write them into binary, right? Decimal to binary conversion, and destination port number, and how I should take 16, 2 octet in one, means 16 bit, 16 bit. Okay, next one is 171 2.14.10, and I'll initialize all TTL value as 0. You can write any other number, and the port protocol name number as 17, because your UDP has defined a protocol number as 17. You should write that specifically properly. Okay, and the total length, UDP length, you can write here it's 15 for like for an instance, and I can take some any port number 1087 and destination port number as 13 and the rotor length as something 15, and these two numbers should be same. What we have in pseudo header 15, here it should also be 15. You can take any other number as well, 20, 21, like that. And I'll initially append all zeros in the checksum field. Later it will be replaced with the what was the calculated checksum what we get. And we take the data portion as some of the characters, like here the data portion, the data will be taken as testing, TESTING, and the last what we have, the portion of 8 bits will be appended with zeros, which is called padding. Okay, and we write them the decimal number in binaries, which is in 16 bits order. Okay, and we add all them and we take the complement, and that is what the checksum of your UDP header. Okay, if I asked you find how we calculate a checksum in an UDP in the transport layer in of your UDP implementation, then you're supposed to write this figure, a pseudo header and the data, and you properly like do this calculation and update what was the checksum that you get. Okay, uh, so this is how we calculate the checksum in your UDP. So when it comes to the implementation at the both the transport layer and sorry at the sender side, at the receiver side, it's very simple. Any application or any processes, if they are sending their data, okay, they are treat them as independent, and each segment will be queued in this queue, input queue and output queue, okay, which has been assigned to the each processes, okay, because we know that it should have some flow mechanism, right? As the sender process sends, it will not be immediately sent. Instead, it will be stored in a buffer memory, and then that terms comes, it will send. Something at the receiver side also same thing, because the receive like the processing time may not be present either at the sending side or the receiver side, right? We know that we do something called scheduling. Each process will get a time to do that's their task or their operations, right? Something here, how that going to be happen, something we use something called queues, memory queues, or buffer we say. So in that we used to put all this data either an input or an output. So this is how we can implement it of an UDP. Okay, and so this is all about UDP. If you have any doubts, you can ask. So the next one is what TCP, and you can ask me what are the advantages. The advantages I can say it's very simple implementation, easy of use, and what I can other can I will say. So these are the implement like advantages. Disadvantages if comes, it's an unreliable connectionless, it's not guaranteed service. So all these things you could set them as unreliable. Okay, sorry, disadvantages. So but we still use, but all the services will not use UDP. So where we use something, it will not take much resources on the host whenever you use this protocol. Okay, but if you see in a TCP, it's an overhead mechanism. Okay, why it is so? It has to establish a connection, then you send a data again, then terminate a connection for every data, which will be flow to and forth for every data request and for every response. You should build a new connection. Okay, but here it's simply bidirectional. It's like a WebSocket kind of implementation. Once it's like it will simply send, probably it may like how it means I will simply throw a ball to a basket, probably it may go and fall in that basket or it may not be fall in the basket. But in a TCP, whatever you throw a ball, every ball what you throw, it should be go and get fell in the basket itself, something like that. Okay, so you can visualize in that way what is called UDP and what is called TCP. Okay, so shall I go with the next one, TCP? You guys understood? Okay, so the completely a dead opposite to this UDP, what we call them as TCP here. Okay, so it's not going to throw a ball simply like randomly or anonymously, or it will do a calculation how I can should throw so that it will be go and fill in that basket properly. Okay, something like that. So it's a connection oriented protocol. It creates a connection, virtual connection, not a physical connection. It creates a virtual connection between two TCP entities, which is sender and a receiver. Then it will send a data. There are three phases here in TCP: connection establishment, data transfer, then the connection termination. Okay, for every data what a client has sent to a server or a server has sent to a client, it should build a connection both the direction from the both the direction. Okay, so and whatever the data you send, you will get an acknowledgement. Okay, you get an acknowledgement that your data has been received and it is not corrupted. It's an error-free data, so that you can send me the next data. Okay, so something like that is what we say. Here it is TCP. Okay, so it uses, and what are the additional services it provides? Something a flow control and error control mechanism. I'll just transfer here. So here you will also look at, so what is connectionless? UDP is connectionless. Connectionless means it will not create any virtual connection between them. Simply send it. As I told you, it simply throw the ball, either it will receive the destination, something like that. But here, TCP will look at their services, their features, then something called segment and TCP connection, flow mechanism, flow control. We already discussed it, right? Something sliding window protocols. Okay, all these things protocols is what here is the same. Probably I would say your SR would be used at this layer, but GBN could be used at data link layer. That ensures the delivery of data from that hop to hop, but from a process level, there is another flow control mechanism that I could use between a process to process. Okay, is what here the flow control mechanism, and the error control is something we use a checksum mechanism for identification if the data is correct. Okay, so these are the well-known services which used or implemented based on this delivery mechanism, which is TCP. This is guaranteed service. Okay, one such is, I can say, HTTP is what which is implemented on HTTP, like TCP. Then I could say something SMTP, your mail service, use, and FTP, and I would say all others. FTP is also UDP, SSH. Okay, RPC, even RPC would also be UDP, TCP based. Okay, so you can think there was common services they could use both this delivery mechanism, something TCP as well as UDP. How means, so we will be having both these vehicles as well as two-wheeler and a four-wheeler. So based on the time, I supposed to choose in which mode I should travel. Okay, I should go with four-wheeler or I should go with two-wheeler, something like that. Okay, uh, four-wheeler something you can reach very soon, but two-wheeler it takes some time. It vice versa, it depends on the situation, how it is. If the road is empty, you can go with faster with four-wheeler than two-wheeler, something like that, right? Here it's something, some services might be implemented using this both this implementation at certain point. I cannot think why you cannot ask like why sir here it is Echo would also using TCP and Discard is also using TCP, something like that. Might be used, may not be used. Okay. Some cases they may use a TCP, some cases they may use a UDP, but most of the time they use an UDP but not TCP because they are not giving their processes are very lightweight. Lightweight means something daytime. What it means to say, it will give back me the what is the time and the data. But with the other processes are not lightweight, they are heavy. Okay, means they're gonna do very much process. Okay, a very large processing. In that time, probably you need to have every data what that server sends should be guaranteed. In that case, we use a TCP. Okay. Okay. That is what some of the services which use the TCP based delivery. Okay. So this something called streaming. Stream delivery here. Whatever the message that the process will give, it will be ordered in the stream of bytes at the transport layer. How you gonna share this stream of bytes to the destination, which is what the graphically here we are representing here. The sender, before they are sending to an receiver, it create a virtual connection, which you can see here is like a pipe, okay, which is in green color. With inside that pipe, we used to send them a streams of bytes. Okay, once that connection has been built, okay, once you lay down this pipe from one point to another point, you can start sending like sending a water through that pipe, something like that here. As I built a connection, then later it will want to stream this bytes of data to the receiver. What do you mean by stream? Here it is something continuously receiving this data. What? Streaming, right? Once you open your video application, you would able to stream the video, right? Continuously, you could see the video without any break, right? It is what streaming you say, video streaming I'm doing. Something here, as I build a connection, either a client or a server, they can start sending the data continuously, which is here we say them as stream of bytes. Okay. Okay. So as we know that, so TCP has given something called flow control. Flow control here is something what at what rate the sender will be sending their data or a messages or a segments to a receiver. The receiver may have their different clock speed or capability, different capability. Okay, it may not have enriched resources, or it could be any other constraints. So what we did here, how this flow control has been given is something we use something called buffers at the both the side. Okay, what you mean by buffer here is it's something every process that you initiate, we know that operating system will allocate some resources. One such resource is what the memory. The memory here is what we set them as buffer. Okay, and what we implemented here is something assuming is one such implementation. It not be always be the same for every processor. I can just given them as here we have a circular buffer, but is input and output buffer means what the input it been sent by a sender process to a receiver process, it will be stored in the same buffer, and what that receiver process has been sent, that would also get be stored here in the same buffer. Okay, so in this buffer you can see there will be something called chambers. Chambers I could say something, or I can say that as sectors. There is what your data will be get filled with the bytes. Okay, so whatever that sender process will send, it will be get right on this buffer. Okay, as the turns comes, it will get arranged in the form of segments, and that will be sent through on this virtual pipe. Okay, what is called you see here is streams of bytes. Okay, let me show you that in next slide. So whatever the bytes that the sender processor wants to write, that will be right on this buffer. Okay, and this buffer will have something called circular clockwise rotation. Here also the same thing. Okay, there you can see that there will be three different indications, like one is in gray color, one is in pink color, and the other one is white in color, right? These chambers. The chambers, they are in white in color, they are the empty space which can fill by the bytes whatever write by the sender process. Okay, and this pink in color is something, they are the bytes, they are ready for the to transmit streams from sender process to receiver process next. Okay, and this gray in color, it's something sent. Okay, but they are sent but they are not received an acknowledgement, is something what they are representing them in gray in color. Okay, so as the turns point comes here, so it's going to be stream this continuous bytes over a channel to some extent, so depending on the window buffer, means how much that receiver could capable of receiving that byte stream of bytes, that many bytes of data is going to be streamed, are going to be sent from a sender buffer to from sender process to a receiver process application. Okay, this is how we do. Okay, this you can see here in more how that streams of data been sent. We're gonna form them something like a segment. We take each this bytes which is filled in this chamber. We're gonna packet them. We set them as a segment, and that segment is going to be sent for a virtual connection which has been built before by the TCP. Sending of this data before by the TCP. Okay. This is what we call them as TCP subbyte. So the bytes of data being transferred in each connection, and they are numbered by TCP. We know that we give a sequence number because of doing a sequence segmentation. Each segment should have a sequence number, so that that sequence number will helps to reassembling them of segments to forms again a stream of characters or messages by generated by the application. The numbering starts from randomly generated numbers. So this is how that we gonna give the sequence number for the each sequence segments based on their byte value. So what do you mean by byte value? If a segment has some size, the sequence number to that segment is going to be the first byte value of that segment. You can see the range of that first segment might have 1000 bytes, and the starting of that byte value is going to be 10,001, and the sequence number of that segment is going to be what? 10,000 means the first byte value will be the sequence number of that segment, which is segment 1. The sequence number is 1001. Segment 2 is 11,001, assuming that segment has the size of 1000 bytes. Okay, 11,001, 12,001, 13,001, 14,001, like that. So which sequence number in turns which gives the reassembling of how we can do this, right? Based on the first byte value from the lowest to highest we go with. The value of the sequence number field of a segment defines the number of first data byte contained in that segment. Okay, as simple. Okay, the acknowledgement number, it is always the incremented the value of what they receive. Okay, the value of the acknowledgement field is in the segment defines the number of the next byte of a part expected to receive. Okay, which is cumulative number, which is when you send 1001, and if you know the size is 1000 bytes, so it will gonna send the acknowledgement for 11,001. Okay, 10,001, the size of that is 1000, it's going to be something 11,001. It's what to send by the acknowledgement sent by the receiver. Okay, and this is what your TCP segment format, or I would say TCP header format. So I will stop here and I will continue this from on the next class.